The Nothing Ear 2s just released, and I know what you are thinking. Why are you the one that's looking at them, Alex? Well, that is because I bought 2 of the Ear 1s, and both of them don't really work right now. So we'll talk about that, but first, let's have a look at these. First thing you notice about the Ear 2s is that much like the Ear 1s, they look sweet. Like you can even just tell from this box, but let's just go in here. Yeah. Oh, look at those. Are there any better looking headphones that are anywhere near this price? Yeah, no, everyone's shaking their heads. All the other ones look like beans and I don't know, like you have cotton in your ear or something weird. Anyway, also in the box, there's one very unfortunate thing. As you can tell, I've been using these because you have to tear the box to get into it. Also in here, Nothing X app. You can click this QR code if you want to go there. We have our user guide. Let's see here. Variety of tips. You press once to answer or hang up a call. Double press to reject it. Triple press for wearing detection. Oh, is wearing detection like in-ear detection? Like when it's in your ear and you take it out, that pauses it? Well, that's my first complaint. So the in-ear detection of the Nothing Ear 1s was terrible. Absolutely awful. We'll have a look at it in these. Continuing down, oh, we have here Type-C cable. This must be a very small Type-C cable. It is. Lengthy one. What do you guys think? Is this worth including?
It's not the length of the cable, it's the quality of the charge.
Okay, the quality of the charge is 0 because there's no charger in here. In fairness, it is a pretty nice cable. It's like plasticky. I'm sure this would be great to use in your car for a lot of people. I would probably never use it for this. Also in here, we have different sized tips. So we have the small, medium comes on it, and then the large. So depending on how big your ear holes are, you're probably good. And if you want to test for sure, I believe now in the app, they have a fitment checker, which we'll look at later. As I alluded to earlier, I have had a lot of issues with my ear 1s. So let's have a little look here. First of all, the most obvious one, this right here no longer has a shell. It's just gone, completely gone. David just asked if I was particularly rough on these headphones, and I don't think so. I have a lot of wired sets of headphones that I use as well because they just sound better than Bluetooth ones. And all of those have lasted like, some of them are 15 years, stuff like that. So here's my list of complaints about the Nothing Ear 1s. So first of all, in-ear detection, completely unusable. It always pauses when I'm like doing the dishes or whatever. Also, the case of these right here broke within a couple of months. So if you see there's a magnet right here, if you look really closely, you can see that it's covered in glue because I had to glue it back in there because it fell out. Also, touch controls. I think I used it once and was like, that was terrible, and then never did again. And finally, the latency is terrible. You cannot watch videos with these in. So they do have a low latency mode on them, but the problem is that you use that and they just don't work. They constantly disconnect, so with all that in mind, let's look at the Ear 2s and how they have improved it. In my opinion, Nothing has done an incredible job of the design of this, because I feel like a lot of earbuds in this price range come with like, I don't know, something the size of my fist or something that's like round. What you want for an earbuds case is something that is slim, because if you're putting it in your pocket, like, it's totally fine if it's thin. If it's thick, it is a bad time. Now, for the Ear 2s, they've actually simplified the design of the case and made it thinner as a result. It's pretty, you can't really tell. But if you look at the way that it's manufactured, on this one right here, there are 3 pieces down here. So there's a top acrylic bit, then sort of a middle piece with all the electronics, and then a bottom acrylic piece. For the Ear 2s, they were able to simplify it, and there is a single inner bit with the electronics and a single outer acrylic see-through piece. So you can see here, that right there is the inner electronics part. Here, it's like acrylic. It makes it just a tiny bit thinner and probably a lot easier to manufacture. One thing that I was definitely scared about when I first got these is that over time, the case would start to look like trash. Like, you guys have used anything that's acrylic before. it starts getting pretty banged up pretty fast. And these have held up pretty good overall. I think that mine survived a little bit better than my girlfriend's. She has the black ones. Actually, oh wait, we have a peel. Oh, my buds also have a peel. Oh. When you look at the earbuds themselves, they first of all, again, look super cool with this transparentness. Okay, don't quote me on this, but I believe that this piece of metal right here is the new antenna. So in the old ones, you can't see it, but the antenna was like right up into your ear hole. I am hoping that by moving the antenna outside of my ear hole and instead transmitting, you know, like wireless signals through the air instead of my head, this will be much better at staying connected to my phone in just sort of challenging environments. Overall, getting them in and out of the case is extremely easy. Here you see like, okay, this one's the red one, there's the red thing there, boop, goes right in, love it. We have a single USB-C connector for charging and a little button right there for pairing. The ear 2s also support wireless charging, which is a cool new feature. Did these have that? They do? Oh wow, I didn't know that. Turns out both of these support wireless charging. I should get a wireless charger. So this right here is good for 36 hours of playback in like 4 to 6 hour chunks, but this case is only 1.87 watt hours. It's such a small battery. Okay, how much do these weigh? For the weight, first we're going to do the ear 1s. So here we go, 66 grams, not too bad. I think the ear 2s are a tiny bit lighter. And they are 61 grams. Lost just a tiny bit. I don't think you're gonna be able to notice that in your pocket, but it is nice to know. Enough screwing around though. I wanna actually listen to these guys, but what I really, really want to do is tell you about our sponsor, dbrand.
Oh God, what does dbrand want?
They have a surprise for you.
Drive your car here for a surprise. Comic Sans, nice. I have no idea what's going on. All I know is this is something to do with dbrand. It's obviously something to do with my car because we specifically drove it here. I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for. Oh my God. Those had me drive an hour because they apparently couldn't find a billboard to put this on that was closer to my office.
Do you love it?
What am I even supposed to say? Honestly.
You like it?
No, I don't like it. It's ridiculous.
Let's just get a shot of you with that face underneath it, maybe.
I'm not making that face. Apparently, after dbrand paid for all of this, I'm obligated to say, check out their products at shortlinus.com.
This right here is already paired, but I'll just click it and a thing comes up asking me to connect. I have connected, set up. Oh wow, it did it, okay. We're in the app, set up this device. Now the way that you input on the ear 2s is very different to the ear 1s. So on the ear 1, you would tap on the outside. So 1 tap did nothing, 2 taps was pause, 3 taps was next song. And then swiping up and down in theory did volume, but in practice did not. Now I have actually been using these for about a week at this point, and the noise canceling is a little bit of a mixed bag in my experience. So it does a really good job at cutting out the lows, but the highs are kind of still present. Now you can see this, the labs actually went and did testing on the noise cancellation, and you can see that it just carves out a whole bunch of the low frequencies, and then above 1K basically, the noise cancellation in this is doing nothing. This is completely different to something like the AirPods, where you can literally like play drums with them in. Don't, they aren't actually earplugs, but you can. So it makes stuff like the garburator, instead of like, normally a garburator kind of sounds like, whereas when you have these in, it's more like you only get like the little treble notes of like the rice grains pinging off the side or whatever. You don't hear the like guttural, like, it's just like, anyway, all of that is to say, I am very curious if the personalized ANC will cut out some of that treble for me, or if that's just kind of a flaw with these. So, start test. Oh, we need to make noise. So it says to check the ambient noise level, it needs to be above 50. Can someone like... Thank you, Jake, for that incredible sound for our test here. All right, the personalized ANC was not better, just different. So it just sort of changed which frequencies I was able to hear coming from that jackhammer as opposed to eliminating that jackhammer. Now in the past for noise cancellation on the ear ones, your options were noise cancellation or no noise cancellation. Whereas here we have a lot more options. So you can go from high, medium, low, and adaptive. So it is nice, first of all, to just have options of how much noise cancellation you want. You don't always need the full amount. But adaptive is particularly interesting because say you're going to work on the bus. The whole time that you're going there, you aren't going to want to like fiddle around in the app, turning noise cancellation levels up and down and so on and so forth, but you don't necessarily need the full amount of noise cancellation the whole time. So this right here, when you're just like sitting at the bus stop, adaptive is probably not doing a whole lot, and that's going to greatly improve your battery life on these. You hop on the bus and it's going around there like making all those cool little diesel turbo noises. It's gonna be taking that adaptive noise cancellation right up, getting those out of there, and hopefully you're just having a good time while saving a little bit of battery life. In here for noise control, we also have transparency mode, which in my experience is terrible, and off. Hearing you is pretty good. Very, very much hearing, like the HVAC that's up there, not so good. They need to be a lot more selective in what makes it through the transparency mode, instead of just being like, I think you want to hear your fridge. Yeah, let's see. Okay, button. Hold it. Noise cancellation. Good. Transparency. Also good. Please go to off. It didn't. Dicks! Let's see. Controls. Can we change it? Oh! We can do it! We can do it! Look at this! Look at this! Transparency. Fuck you. Go away. Off. Thank you, nothing. I do really appreciate the amount of control that they give you over what your various stuff does in this. Double pinch, oh, they have a bunch of new ones. My memory of the ear ones, I would very simply describe it as bass. So the overall sound signature, pretty good, but a lot of extra bass. That is sometimes very fantastic if you're listening to like drum and bass or hip hop. Sometimes not so good if you're listening to jazz and all you hear is boom, 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 baby. For the ear 2s, there's 3 massive improvements that they have done. So first of all, they have 2 separate chambers in here. So for the first one, they had a single chamber, you have a diaphragm. There's going to be an amount of air behind that, and how much air there is, kind of it acts as a spring for the speaker, and that allows you to get your lower notes and sort of how clean. When you get below where that resonates, it's gonna get distortion. On the ears 2, to help with that, they now have 2 cavities in there, sort of opened it up, used space that was already there that can act as like the spring for the driver, and apparently that helps. Also, completely new controller. So this right here uses a much more high-end controller for the ANC and sound processing and stuff. And finally, this supports high-res audio. For the most part, high-res audio doesn't really matter, but in certain situations, if you're listening to, I don't know, Supertramp 198-bit remaster version, you might hear a tiny bit more if you're in a completely silent room. Ear 2s. Play. Way better, way better. To 10 times better. Just totally different experience. The difference is absolute night and day, and it's pretty easy to tell why from the frequency response curve. One disclaimer, the ear ones that I have are used, and over time your ear junk gets crammed in, and that makes the trouble worse in your earbuds. Disgusting, but just note that these might have had a little bit more trouble from the factory. That said though, way too much bass. So we have our target curve here in white, and then the bass is 8-9 decibels more at 20 hertz. It is pretty overbearing, especially when you combine it with mids and treble that just fall below the line pretty much for the entire time. This leads to a sound signature that, unless you're listening to big wubs, is pretty terrible. So you kind of mostly hear the bass guitar, and the whole thing feels almost like claustrophobic because you're just getting the bass, you're not getting much treble, and so it has this sort of like clamping feeling on your head, if that makes sense at all. The ears too are just so much better. So here we have it, tiny bit more bass than you might want, but just a tiny bit, and the treble is pretty much bang on for the entire time. It took me like 2-3 notes to just be like, oh, that's complete game changer for these guys. Now the most annoying thing about the ear ones though is that like they have a full-blown app. It should be very easy to save these by just adding a tiny bit more treble and cutting a bunch of low end. Instead though, you had the option of standard and then more bass. So it was either only wubs or only wubs. One thing that I was going to say is that while using the ear 2s, I have had 0 problems with the in-ear detection, even though that was a massive problem on the ear 1s. But looking at it here, it's just off by default. And before, if I did this, it would without a doubt stop. They're still going, great. All right, there's a couple other things in here that I can do to potentially make these sound even better. Ear tip fit test. Start. It just made a little whoop 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 sort of a noise, and apparently I have a good seal on both earbuds. Now, personalized sound profile. You're hearing your sound. Okay, so what the personalized EQ test seems to be doing is it's playing just like white or pink noise and then slowly putting in a beep of different frequencies. So we started out at probably somewhere right around 2000 hertz with the beep, and then brought it up to pretty ear splitting, maybe. Yeah, up to somewhere around 12,000 hertz, which was, yes, rather ear splitting. And so it was trying to figure out how I am able to find like the trebly details versus just like normal noise. I am a little bit surprised, honestly, but they were able to restore like a little bit of the hi-hats by doing that I wasn't really hearing before. Okay, when they said that they had an equalizer, I was really hoping for something a little bit better than this. So you're able to just sort of move this blob around for mids or trebles or whatever. I guess you would be able to do a little bit in this if you're thinking like with the ear 1s, you could very easily be like bass, let's just turn that down a bit, and you probably would be happy. But realistically, I'm just gonna leave it on balanced because it sounds pretty good there. And with any luck, low latency mode actually works. ShortCircuit, there's a new video. Let's watch that. 3 mechanical keyboards. Okay, there is definitely still a tiny bit of latency, but it isn't too bad. Let's turn off low lag mode. Go back. Oh, that's terrible. That is like unwatchable. So yes, low lag mode, it seems to work. I didn't have any trouble there, and even though I didn't really test it, our building is about as terrible as you can get for Wi-Fi interference. So the Nothing Ear 2s, let's have a look at my problems with the ear 1s and see what they've fixed. So can't use in-ear detection, that is fixed. I have been using them for a week, haven't had that be a problem once, and with the ear 1s, it was constant, like actually unusable for me. The case broke on my girlfriend's and the earbud broke on mine, but they have new glues and apparently that has been fixed. It was a known issue and it's all been solved. The case being flaky on my girlfriend's, unsure. We are going to have to just hope that when they went from a team of like 20, 30 people when they made this to a team of 400 people when they made this, they solved the probably just poor QC problems with this. Touch controls always sucked. That is vastly improved. Having a little pinch seems to be way more reliable than the touch that there was before. And also there's the problem of like, when you touch it, you are pushing it into your ear, so it's kind of like, and now when you pinch it, it doesn't do that. Great. Mic no longer works on mine. We'll see. Hopefully their QC's better. Massive latency on the old ones. They have fixed that, it seems. My final complaint is the price. So the only reason that I bought the ear ones was because they were cheap and they looked cool. And now they are 50% more expensive, which is kind of a problem, but in talking to Nothing, they had at least a good reason, which was mostly they didn't have enough of them. So the ear ones, they saw that they made however many they made, and they were like, oh crap, we're gonna be releasing the ears 2 next year, and we thought that we had enough stock to get there, but we don't. So we're gonna increase the price. Hopefully they last until then, and then we won't just have things sold out for a bunch of months. Instead, people just bought them at $150, and they sold out anyway. But now the new ones with the greatly improved sound, the new controller, and hopefully better build quality, I think it's pretty decent. So I'm gonna be giving these a go. I'm gonna give Nothing one more chance because making products is very hard and it does what I need to do. And if you want something that sounds better, get an actual DAC and wired headphones. I think it's really stupid to buy expensive earbuds because all of them become trash in 2 years anyway. So huge thanks for watching, hit like, get subscribed, and just have a fantastical day. See you later.